Hi, it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics. As you know, one of our favorite embroidery designers is Barri Designs. Not only did Barri design the clean hand, warm heart towel, which is so perfect for this moment, right? 20 seconds, we're all washing our hands all the time. But it's now summertime, and I remember when my kids were home from school, and they've been home from school for a while, haven't they? And you tell them to do something, and then they say, why? And you, for a while, explain it, and then after a while, you're like, why? Because I said so. Barri Sue, I saw this quilt, saw this towel rather, and just literally laughed out loud. Because we've all been there as moms. Because I said so, period, mom, underline. I just love this towel, and we have a limited, very limited amount of kits, and I'm smiling because let's get a thumbs up from the moms that have kind of been pushed to that point where you're done explaining and you just say, because I said so, that's why. So let's jump into what is this thing and how do we get one and how does it go together? So let me put that up here. You'll be able to still see it as we work through. The kit will include a towel. It's a vintage kind of flour sack towel. And your instructions will have a photo there, and inside will be your tracing diagram and your instructions. We'll have some kind of lavender, lilac colored Ric Rac, and the Ric Rac is on both sides of the towel. It also has a hanging loop. So you could hang it, kind of by that traditional loop if you want, but of course I think it's much cuter displayed maybe over an oven, kind of the handle, so you can completely read it. But there's Ric Rac on both ends. And then also included in your kit is this beautiful floss twirl that has all of the colors. These are really difficult to make, by the way. It's embroidery floss, but the way it's presented is just kind of a gift. I think it's so beautiful. And that's also in your kit. Okay, so now, of course, once you get your towel, get everything wrapped up, her first instruction is wash your towel. I purposely have one that's washed and one that's not. So you'll be amazed at how much shrinkage there actually is with these towels. And once you wash it, it kind of just tightens everything up. It softens everything up. You really do want to go through the washing step. So this one's washed, same towel, and this one is not washed. Here, I'm going to show you the difference in size. It's amazing how much these actually shrink. Look at that. That's probably getting close to not quite 2 inches. It's very significant. So I'm working with I wanted to show you that. So we'll work with the unwashed towel. And inside the instructions, I love how it's just so compact. Inside, we'll have the embroidery design and the instructions. So step one was definitely go ahead and pre-wash that towel. And now we will trace the design. Now trace the design on the side that's opposite of where your loop is. That gives you the option to be able to hang it from that loop if you'd like. Now I want you to note on Barri Sue's towel here, and we'll get to all that's on the table in just a little bit. Let me move some things out of the way because those things will be coming up here shortly. I'll move that out of the way. One of the things you'll notice about the towel is that there's the detail on the bottom, and then above the stripe is the expression. This is really just how she did it, and if you'd like to follow suit, what you'll do is you'll put your tracing diagram and just lay this out here flat on top of our light box. This is the Wafer 2 light box. It fits this beautifully, and we'll lay our towel down. Now she put this all together so that it fit. Now you could, if you want to, just put that entire design above the stripe. Now how she did it, as you can see here, she split that. That nice long row of kind of foliage greenery is down below the stripe and the words are above. And you can see the shrinkage here. Is that incredible? So there's a lot of shrinkage that's happened, like I mentioned. And you could put that really anywhere in this band. I ended up using this ruler. When I traced this on, I used a friction pen. In fact, I'm going to heat this iron up because I want to show you if you make any mistakes tracing with a friction pen on a light colored fabric, just iron that away. But on this right here with a straight line, instead of me trying to just trace my lines kind of going like this, I just place my ruler along that, and it's the same length just by coincidence. So this ruler really came in handy. This is 6.5 by 12.5. I laid that on, drew my straight line, and just drew some subtle marks where we'll have the lazy daisy. So I'll definitely show you how to do the stitching. So if you're really new to hand embroidery, maybe brand new, or maybe you haven't for a while, I'll get you up to speed. Very simple on the hand embroidery. But you can see how the beauty of the light box here. And let me turn it off. And let me move this out of the way so that you can see the design. You can see it. Definitely you can see it. But when you turn this on, now you can see it so easily. You're not straining your eyes. So if you do any kind of hand embroidery, or there's anything where you're tracing a diagram, having a light box is wonderful. So just consider that if you know you're going to be doing a bunch of tracing. Otherwise, you could tape this up to maybe a sliding glass door and just be able to trace the design on your towel, kind of balancing the design left and right. And that's what we'll just trace on a design. Let's say I make a mistake. I trace up here for some reason. Well, beautiful part about our friction pen, let's move this up here, is I just bring that to my iron and those lines are gone. And see how that's just wonderful. You could trace with a micron pen or other permanent marking pen. I'd like to discourage you from doing that because there's no reason to. That way, if you do make a mistake, you don't have to worry. You can iron it away and just start again. So I like stress-free quilting whenever and crafting whenever I can. All right, once the design is on the towel, then let's just move right into what are those hand embroidery stitches. And they're very simple, but there's something really cool she did. And I want to point it out to you in the overhead camera and maybe even a close-up. You could do a simple back stitch here, but notice how there's this extra level of stitching she did here. And that's kind of to have the old-fashioned typewriter font. So we will just do a back stitch here, but then she did this extra stitch kind of here, around the curves, right in here, to give it this extra little, you can see it even on her own. That's more than just a straight back stitch in places. So that's an option if you want to follow on and do that. You'll just do simple back stitching and then just go back and add. Or of course, as you're going, you're just kind of adding. I just thought it looked so cool. It looked like an old-fashioned typewriter, and that's what she was going for. So let's jump into our stitches. We'll get real close up, and there's really only 3 stitches here. Let's just do this letter I. So we'll just come up. I've got 2 strands. Let me start with that. And she guides you through the pattern, whether it's 2 strands or 3 strands. This is 2. I have a knot in the end. And I'm using the Richard Hammond embroidery needles. I kind of jumped ahead of myself, didn't I? You don't need to break the bank buying hand embroidery needles. These are just a couple dollars. I've had this pack of needles. You can see I've been using some of them for years. Just a couple dollars. If you have any difficulty threading the needle, just grab the Clover needle threader. It works great. All right, let's dive into that. Got so excited to start stitching, I forgot to tell you what I was even stitching with. So we'll come up on our drawn line, and we'll just go down, and we're going to split that line. And then when you come up, again, on that line, trying to split the line. Now, what's cool about washing your towels, do you notice how loose this weave is? This towel has not been washed. Look at this towel here. Do you see how tight that is? That's the beauty. This is a very loose weave. These stitches are not going to be as stabilized as they are on a washed towel. So that's all the more reason to go ahead and wash that towel. It's nice and tight. Those stitches are going to lock right in and not be moving around on you. All right, I'm going to stitch here, and we'll back stitch again. And that's the back stitch. It's one of the most basic stitches in hand embroidery. I want to get to that spot where we're going to add in some extra stitching. Let's go one more. I want to go do that extra little bulky stitch there that she did. It's such a cool effect. This is where she did kind of this extra stitch where she went up just a touch. I mean, just a breath. And kind of came back. So just adding a little bit of bulk in here. You see how she did that right there? We're just adding some bulk. So this is the back stitch. Now I'm going to jump forward right over here. I'm just going to kind of make a little bit of a jump here. We've got the stitch here, this little loop. There's lazy daisies and French knots, and that's everything in this entire towel. And I can just do the stitch out here so you can see it. So with a lazy daisy, I like to work this lazy daisy toward myself. So we'll come up. I'm going to bring that to the left. And I'm going to go right back in the hole where I'd come up. And my thumb is blocking that. I'm not going to let that just pull right through. Now if I want my lazy daisy to be, about there, I'll just come up. Let go. Now I'm going to hop over here. It's a really, really fun little stitch. Now just make a bigger one. If you want to do bigger ones, you'd simply go longer, maybe out here. This is a great stitch. It's one of the most classic of all. So that's just a little bit longer. And of course, you can just do shorter ones. So that's a lazy daisy. What's this French knot thing? Okay, French knots are really fun. Another very foundational stitch. So I start over, my needle's horizontal, and I literally put this and I wrap the thread around it, floss I should say. Now pivot, because it wants to slide off your needle. So you need a little bit of space to be able to pivot the needle and go back down where you came up. You want to hold a little bit of tension while you're pulling that through. Now that's a really tiny lazy daisy, right? So what do we want to do if we want one bulkier? Because I know when I look at my French knots that are right here in my purple, I believe she has us using more than 2 strands for that. I think she might have even said 3. But the way to bulk that up is to use more strands instead of the 2, but maybe use 3 or 4 or more, maybe a full 6 if you want to. But the other option is to do more wraps. So same step, thread to the side, needle, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can keep going. Now I'll pivot, go back down, hold that little bit of tension until you have to release. And now you see how you have the bulk that you need. That's what you're going for, right? You want that to be seen. So you've got a back stitch with this extra cool little typewriter thing. I love the idea. I've never done that before. We've got our lazy daisies and we've got our French knots. Now, let me show you a couple books real quick. Let me give you just a quick close-up on these 2 books. This is Barri Route's favorite embroidery stitches. I love this. This is the same designer of the towel project here. And inside here, you have these adorable, it's just the sweetest little booklet. It's got these great stitches showing you how to do them, but she has also put these extra projects inside. So you not only have kind of a great little guide of how to do those stitches, but there's extra projects as well, which are really sweet. And they're kind of tucked, they're like these little treasures inside this book. So if you want to learn the most basic stitches and really be able to do any of the Barri Route's projects, this is a great guide for you. If you are absolutely like, I want to learn every embroidery stitch there ever was, this is a completely different, it's the next level where it's for the left and right-handed quilters or stitchers as well. And it just goes into so many stitches. It's really next level. It's almost a Bible for hand embroidery. And I love that it can stand up. It has like kind of a little stand here. So as you're trying to teach yourself, and practice, it's kind of propped up, which is great because then you can just refer to it. So this is another one that I just wanted to point you to. You don't need those. This is all that's needed to do this towel, but if you just want to have that for a guide, it may be something to consider. Okay, so you can see the stitching is really doable and it's fun. So, you know, the hand embroidery was quick, probably half a day, and then you're ready to move on to the next step, which is putting in your Ric Rac. So let's look at that real quick. Ric Rac's included in your kit, and let me show you how we did that. So on the back side of the towel, you've got your Ric Rac is where we're going to base that on. So let me show you that real quick. Ric Rac can definitely fray. So I'd like to encourage you, rather than just kind of putting that on there, especially if you're actually going to wash this towel, which I don't think you will. It's more of a decorative thing, but especially if you were going to wash it. I liked using my Roxanne's glue based it. It's also water soluble, so if you do get this towel wet, the glue will dissolve, but you don't need to wash it out. So I wanted to show you real quick on the side camera. Ric Rac can definitely fray. So if you kind of fold it onto itself once, maybe even twice if you wanted to, you could do that and maybe just run a quick stitch there. Now because you're running through some thicker things, the couple needle options that I like to use, I normally only use an 80-12 in my machine unless I'm doing any machine embroidery of our machine applique with a fusible product, and then I use my super nonstick. Now today, because we are using glue, I did choose the super nonstick and I used the size 100, not the size 80. It's a beefier needle. It's meant to go through thicker things. You might want to also consider this or the chrome, which is going through denim. It's again meant to go through this denser material. I just think it's going to perform better than a standard 80-12 needle. So just something I wanted to mention. I definitely found myself grabbing for a beefier needle when we put the Ric Rac on. So I'll just wanted to mention that as well. You guys know I'm always trying to show you what I'm doing so that you can choose, and you probably have a machine or a drawer full of machine needles. That way you just know to grab for one. All right, so we have tucked that under maybe twice. Go ahead and stitch that down. Then to get it on the towel, when I try to just lay that down and stitch that on the machine, I just found it moving around, and I didn't plan on using the Roxanne glue based it, but I couldn't keep it from shifting because as the presser foot came, I just wanted to move away. So I personally found that laying the Ric Rac down, of course you'll measure your distance exactly for your wash towel, trim that, fold it under twice, you do on that on both ends, and you've got enough for both this side and that. I found that laying a bead of glue right along that edge, not too much, and laying this down evenly, and you can almost even do it from the front so you make sure that that scallop is even, and let it dry. You could use the Wonder Clips if you want to clip it. I didn't do that. You could definitely do that and let it dry, and then I just came back with a cream thread. I think that's the Confetti Color 101. It's kind of a soft white. And then I just did a top stitch along here just to secure that, and did the same thing on the other end. So pretty straightforward, but if you've never worked with Ric Rac, you might not know that it frays on the both ends and to tuck it under. Glue might help you to tuck that under. Again, letting it dry before you stitch it down to your towel. So I thank you, Barri Sue, for designing all these cute things. They just bring a smile to our face. And you know, I know that there aren't too many moms in the world that would not appreciate this as a gift. So maybe for your mom, for her birthday, or just because. So think about that for yourself, or maybe as gift giving, grab your towels, limited supplies on that. And I will see you on a future Shabby Fabrics video.